Hi friends, we're here to talk about the first 100 pages of Thackeray's Vanity Fair. No, it's early in the book, it's an 800-page book, but we have a few things we want to kind of bring to the surface right away and start thinking about.
Yeah, I think right off you need to talk about Becky Sharp and how she's getting established as a character. On the one hand, you have that last name Sharp, which sort of makes you think that she's going to be this admirable character, but on the other hand, she really isn't so admirable. She is really a climber and someone who's always looking for an advantage, but it's because she has no mother and no family to place her in society.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of sympathize with her. So she's really mean to her friend Amelia, like the only girl who befriended her at the school that she was at, where she was one of the kind of second-class citizen students there. But she doesn't seem grateful to her, kind to her at all. She lies to her, just kind of get the advantage. But I mean, honestly, like, I really kind of fell in love with this character from the very first chapter, where the schoolmistress is moralizing about Johnson's dictionary, and it's like some really important gift that she's going to give all the girls as they leave, and the other sister says, oh, you have to give one to Miss Sharp, and
right.
There's a whole argument about that, and so finally they agree they will give the dictionary to Miss Sharp, and what does Becky Sharp do? Throws the dictionary out the carriage window on her way away from the school, and that actually made me laugh out loud. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this character.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I thought was really funny about that scene is the phrase is that she throws it back.
Yeah.
Right? So there's this idea, it's like, it's really aggressive and she's moving forward. But the other thing about it that I love is dictionary is spelled with an X. And
oh, was it?
well, I'm
going to look that up while you're talking.
And there's just kind of, I don't know if that's meant as a pun. Spelling hadn't been regularized while the story is taking place.
Oh, yeah. Dixonary. Well, and speaking of names and spellings, and you just referred to Becky Sharp's name, one of the Dickens-like things I see happening in here is that playing with place names and people names. Like, they're very humorous names that indicate what people are like.
Later in the first 100 pages, there's the character Dobbin.
Yeah.
Right? And we associate that as a horse name. Right?
Yeah.
And he ends up being this like very steady, not easily angered person, but when he is angered, he's like really virtuous and positive.
Yeah, he's a very virtuous character.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, we'll have some more fun looking at the names later.
Right. I like Crawley also, because this is a family that is kind of crawling along the bottom. I mean, I think one of the things I find
they're not crawling along the bottom though. They're it's a wealthy family. They're not in the upper crust, but they're striving, but it's not like they're struggling.
Well, I mean, like, Mr. Crawley is just so cheap. And like the first night that Becky shows up, they don't even feed her dinner. They're like, oh, you must have eaten along the way. And we're going to have they have this like little hunk of mutton and an onion, for dinner. So the Crawleys, I think that name is great because I think that they're just kind of like crawling along the bottom in the aristocratic realm.
What it reminded me of was Downton Abbey. Isn't that the name of the family in Downton Abbey? The nephew or whoever he is who comes in and he's supposed to take the title because all the daughters can't have the title. We're going to look that up too. So let's talk about the narrator, because the narrator keeps breaking into the story here. So it's almost like when you're at the theater and the fourth wall gets broken and the character turns and talks to the audience. I mean, the narrator just keeps turning and talking to the audience. It's sometimes like for paragraphs at a time, which is kind of surprising the first time it happens, and then sometimes humorous. It's almost like the narrator is another character.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes I'll be reading along and then all of a sudden I'll realize that it's the narrator addressing me.
Yeah.
And so I've just been eased into this relationship with the narrator. But the narrator is difficult in other ways because the narrator, I think, enjoys Becky's rebelliousness, but also thinks that she is, as I said, just a mean person.
Yeah. He's talking about the maiden aunt in the Crawley family who has all the money.
Yeah.
And she won't loan it out to them. She decides she'd rather keep control of it. And the narrator says, "Ah, gracious powers, I wish you would send me an old aunt, a maiden aunt, an aunt with a lozenge on her carriage and a front of light coffee-colored hair. How my children should work bags for her. And my Julia and I would make her comfortable." He's kind of breaking in on his own story in a really funny way there. This read is a little more enjoyable than I expected it to be, which is kind of a funny thing to say because we chose to read this 800-page book, but I wasn't exactly expecting it to be laugh out loud funny at times, but it is.
Well, and what I like about the laugh out loud funny part of this is that the characters do things that are stupid or preposterous, but the narrator likes his characters. He's mocking them, but he also sees a human side to them, and he has a warmness for these characters at the same time as he lets them do foolish things.
Yeah, and I think I would say that I have a warmness for Becky, even though I know she's a really nasty person who I would not want to get tangled up with in real life.
Yeah.
Right. So to be continued. We're moving on to the next 100 pages, and when we get to page 200, you'll hear from us again. In the meantime, please feel free to drop your own comments in the comments section below. We'll be really interested to see what you're thinking about as you read Vanity Fair.